or she'll cry. So it's almost like in her chart how she responds to things when she's sensitive, because it's in a masculine form, but all her wounds and her healing has to do with the feminine. So she does have that, but it's wounded. So she'll react more in the masculine.
And I feel like
Yeah.
once you learn those things, you can see those kind of experiences or trauma on people, because it just affects their personality and how they deal with relationships or deal with drama, or kind of like the reoccurring weight on her shoulder of like she's being treated differently because she's a female and all this. She feels like her femininity is being attacked or isn't being acknowledged.
Right, exactly. Which brings me to, it's interesting you brought up, because that energy, she's going to be going through a transformation because the North Node was in Cancer. So she's going to be hit right now with some of her wounds and trying to evolve. We all are. But another one is what, Blueface, and his little situation that happened and jumped off with all those girls that ended up fighting each other.
Oh, yes.
What did that happen, like 2 weeks ago?
Yeah, everything in trending topics happened so fast. You don't know. It could have been 2 weeks ago, a month ago, or
right,
a few days ago.
All these retrogrades, which I'll talk about too, but he really sparked up this Venus retrograde period, because it's shadow boxing right now. So Venus, she's getting ready to go retrograde, which affects our relationships and our affairs. With Venus being in retrograde, she's going in a Gemini, so she's going to bring in the twin energy, which symbolizes love, but it also symbolizes two. So there could be a second party or threesomes or situations that pull off like that. And because during the time that had happened, all that energy wasn't in Gemini, it was in Aries. So all these women were bickering at each other, and he was putting these energies together and finding themselves out, who they were and what they were. So he's getting a lot of karmic relationships that are happening to him, because he's not choosing his higher self on how to situate the things. But I'm seeing that that's another way that relationships are playing out with Venus in retrograde, is not really going with your higher self. It's okay, well, I'm just going to mess with this girl and this girl and this girl and this girl. And so that energy kind of catches up with you with retrograde. So that to me was some karmic stuff too. Nikki's going through a whole different dynamic, because she's getting hit in her Chiron, her wound, with her wounds, and then the North Node being her fate. So she's changing, but we're all getting hit with these planets differently. Same thing with Aries and Moneybag. And that was interesting to me too, because Aries was talking about, oh, I want a second party, I want a third party, I want this. And Moneybag has always been attracted to twos, and I believe his Venus is in Leo, and her Aries is in another Aries is in another fire sign, I believe. So they really go together, so they click. But I'm seeing that play out. The storyline is being played out, and I'm seeing that on a conscious collective level with other individuals in the industry. So that's interesting to look at.
With Ari, I feel like she doesn't like feminine energy, but like masculine. Like she needs a little bit more, because it seems like when it comes to like relationships and stuff, she doesn't know how to, be a little bit more submissive. Or even now where she's saying she wants to add a third party, maybe things are getting too serious. Like there's not enough like toxicity where she's feeling like, okay, we're not fighting everything, I'm about to break up, so I need something else to make this, exciting enough for her,
Right, exactly. And then a Future and why can I say her name right now? Lori Harvey. She's another one, because Lori Harvey, she's a Capricorn and Future's a Scorpio. He rolls Pluto, so he rolls all like the sex and the drugs. Like the way he does his music is such a reflection of who he is, because he's such a Scorpio.
And I wonder how in tune is he, with his chart for him to go that route with everything, like,
all the way.
I wonder, like, was that natural, or or was it conscious? Like he knew, like, okay, Pluto, like this. Did he take all that to create Future, or was it just something that naturally happened? I wonder does he know? And then he was like,
Does
okay,
he
this
know?
is who I am, and kind of created this persona.
Created that persona, right?
Because
that interests me. That does, because he knows, he be knowing he's toxic.
And then on several different occasions, I've seen interviews of him saying, I don't even do drugs how I make it seem. I may have done some here, done it before, or may have did it at that very moment, but it's
That's
not
a
to the
persona.
extent. So I'm wondering, like, okay, so this really is a persona. Who inspired
And it's Pluto.
him,
It's Pluto ruled. Right.
know?
Exactly.
And then he even has
Exactly.
a mixtape called Pluto. He goes by that as a nickname. So it's like, okay, who's coaching
Who's
you?
managing you, right?
Like, okay.
Right. And Pluto rules death. Pluto rules sex. That's also why hyperactivity of sexual stuff is going on in the atmosphere too, because he's getting ready to go retrograde. But a lot of energy, sex, money, darkness comes a lot up with Pluto. So does death, but it takes heads when it goes into retrograde. So if you have any karmic pieces that you're working on that you've been doing or lying about, Pluto and Saturn works in that area, but Pluto will take heads all the way. So Pluto reacts karmically, in more of a toxic darkness energy. So I don't really like fucking with, excuse my language, I don't really like messing with Pluto. I don't really like messing with Pluto, but Saturn
When you
we
say
can work
messing with Pluto, what would you consider as messing with? Like, what does that mean?
So when the universe, or when people are in reaction, or when people or humanity, so say you go to the grocery store and there's a guy outside who's fighting with a girl, or some guy ran off and snatched some purse. There's a lot of break-ins, there's a lot of intrusion energy, there's a lot of over and masculine toxicity energy, and I don't really like that type of vibe. So naturally you'll see this out in the universe, or how people will react in humanity in the grocery stores. You'll hear this in the news or in the medias right now. A lot of rape stories are coming up with Pluto going retrograde, break-ins, people stealing things, just a lot of that darker energy. Same thing with cheating and lying. So when it goes direct, all of this is going to be more so handled with Saturn. So Saturn has to do with more of the judgment, more has to do with justice system, the education system, the political system. So anything that's hidden with Pluto, even politically, is going to be shown. So there's no way that you can run or hide or steal or rob or anything like that at this point without getting caught up with Saturn. But a lot of people are still reacting to this energy because it's going retrograde. But a lot of people are unconscious to it. So it's almost like Spirit is saying, you know what, I'm just going to give you the lesson, and this is what it is. So 2020 is going to be a whole different reset with people. We're going to go through like 4 or 5 different retrogrades. The hard retrogrades, they're not nice ones. Like Mercury, we handle every once in a while. We have no problem. Yeah, we, go through that little issue, but we're going into 4 or 5 different retrogrades.
Are retrogrades ever a good thing?
Yeah, I'd say yes. I think that everything has a polar opposite, because dark and light, but I feel like retrogrades make people more confused. And if you're unconscious of what's going on, then they're going to react more unconsciously, thus more lessons, more karmic buildup, more issues. It's a revising stage though. So if there's something in the past that you have to go back to, that you have to think about, say that there's something like blogging, for instance, if there's something that you were thinking about, okay, I want to, jump on this, I want to create this, that's going to be more so highlighted in that frame. So I don't know if that makes sense, but it should. So all of these revising stages, it'll kind of take us back to things that we were thinking about months ago. But Jupiter goes retrograde on the 14th, I think, of this month. or
What
next
is
month.
funny is, if I'm remembering correctly, maybe about 6 months ago, I believe we were in our last retrograde, and I started a blog, and I'm thinking like, okay, I'm just gonna go. This is what I'm doing, and 3 months later I stopped, and now here we are 6 months later again, and
Picking back up, right?
with the same idea, just in a different form, which I tend to see myself do a lot, but this time it really does feel different. It feels like a little bit more concrete, a little bit more like, this is I'm taking off running and I'm going to keep going,
Exactly. And that's the North Node. That's the North Node, because the North Node it hits today, and it's been hitting a couple days this week. But when the North Node happens, we're more so drawn to our future, our destiny, our purpose, what we're called to do. And so you probably have some nodes in your chart that shows that you're managing and supposed to be doing vocal work, or even podcasting. Even those types of things show up in your astrology chart, but it's probably in trigger mode. So you're going to be going for a little bit, which you'll be revising and going through the things that you want to start rebuilding. But going back and revising, sometimes even old karma comes up with this too. So if you have something from the past that you want to work on or had to work on, there might be an old friend that pops in and says, you know what, hey, let's get on this, it's time. So that's kind of how you popped in on me.
And I
the spirit was like, it's time.
kind of describes this, like, okay, I feel
Yeah.
we've been talking for like a little bit now, and you had not introduced yourself. So
okay.
if you could just introduce yourself, and then kind of just tell us a little bit of how you got started and what you do and kind of your specialty.
Okay, so my name is Susanna. Most of you know by CubanDollFace on IG, or Twitter, it's Royal Nefertari. I've been doing readings for 10 plus years. I started when I was 12, 13 years old. My dad was very different than my mom growing up, and the belief systems were completely different. My dad was very spiritual in a different form. He has more of a Congo African heritage in him. My mom was more of a free spirit. So she'd run through the house with sage. My dad would be conjuring up what to do with what spirit, and Elagua or Ogun, so it was completely different. I had both sides to my family. And then there was a space between my mother saying, you know what, whatever you want to do it. If you feel like this is what you want to do, then do so. So I started reading people for free when I was like 13 to like 15. And my mom's friends used to come over, and they'd be like, wow, your daughter knows all this. And so then I started building more and more and more, and getting online, and people were like, please share your information more. So I offered more readings, and I got client base from London, from the States to Amsterdam.
Were that young, or is this just as you were doing it?
Yes, started out very young, 12, 13. And then I didn't start pricing until I got about 16, 17. And then about my first job, my first real job, it still was calling to me. And everybody was like, you don't belong here. You're supposed to do this and do that. And sure enough, slowly I got into that. But that's my North Node in Pisces. So my North Node in Pisces is more about living the spiritual form and understanding the spiritual way of life, which is very interesting for me because I'm a double Pisces, and then my North Node is in Pisces. So, girl, intuition.
I feel like my North Node is in Aries, and I'm a Capricorn, beginning of January.
Goals, ambition, goals, ambition.
There's something in my chart that makes procrastination my best friend, because that is I have such high aspiration and such high goals. Like, I will plan something down to the detail, and then
Capricorn will give you the goal. Capricorn will give you the goal, and that Aries in you will give you the push. That's the fire. That's the passion. So you never lack that. You never lack that. That's part of your calling. So energetically, everybody has, North Node in their natal chart. And so they're always following it. whether they're conscious of it or unconscious, but it's very interesting. So, oh, I see you, fire girl.
Do you feel that, as being someone who is, very spiritual and, into astrology and, have these beliefs, how do you feel like people's perception of you are, what is the word? Like, how do you feel like that affects your relationships with other people, or how they perceive you? Stereotypes.
Oh, girl. The worst. I don't want to say the worst, but I tell you, it keeps people that are unconscious or not willing to do their work or not willing to be open-minded away from me, because those people are more closed-minded. But I do feel, you attract what you are. And in some instance, I always attract people that they might not know what it is, but they're about it. They're willing to learn about it, and they feel it. I have friends now that are completely don't know anything about astrology, but they'll call me right up and say, I feel something right now. I'll be like, oh, okay, well, that's that, and this is how you make your moves. And so my study in astrology has been built up. I mean, I have so much to learn. Everybody does. It takes years, more years. There's older people in their 90s doing astrology, and they're learning so much more. And there's different ways to look at astrology too. So, but it's knowledgeable. It allows me to even meet friends too, because, I'll be like, let me look at your natal chart, and I'll know, okay, well, you're in my 7th house, or, you're in my 5th house or my 2nd house. So it allows me to understand who they are to me, as well as what type of dynamic of the partnership can be. But naturally, if you'd run into me on the street somewhere, most people, they'd be like, I wouldn't know that you would read people, except that you look at people differently. Or if you talk to me, then you'll know I'm a little bit different. But on an average, every day today, people can't really see the difference.
That's how I feel too. I am not as knowledgeable in the area as you by far, but I do, I have my own knowledge that I share, my own beliefs. And
yes,
I always pull in people that I've never had a conversation with someone where like it's been backlash, like someone who's been completely far left of what I believe in. But that's only because I feel like energy, I'm able to read the energy of someone who is like kind of on the same vibration as me, are willing to, meet me in the middle. So
exactly.
I consider myself not an empath, but empathic.
Yes.
It's very easy for me to pick up on people's energy. And one thing that I feel like I'm good at is knowing what people mean. Don't tell me what you meant to me, because I feel what you meant. I know what you're
reading energy. Yeah.
But I feel exactly what you mean. So no matter what you're saying to me, it doesn't matter.
Right. You feel everything. Words are just words. Energy speaks louder than words to me. But I think some people can't even feel energy, girl. Some people aren't really on that level.
I wonder how people get so numb to that, but I feel like that first comes from like being so boxed into like being a sheep following everyone else's thought. Like that person has never been in an area to where they created their own thought or went against the grain of what everybody else was thinking. I think like if you can't feel energy or read energy, like you have like a very bad case of sheep mentality.
Right, exactly. But I think that also being, the percentage of the world too, us being boxed in, and how, feeling things or feeling the unknown is unreal to some if they can't see it. So I agree. It's different levels, different levels.
Maybe, and some people probably think about it backwards. Like some people think like what they see is what they get, and there's other people who think like what I see can't be all there is. And I feel like I'm on that spectrum, like what I see can't be all there is. And some people are very very much realist, and I'm a realist, but maybe in a different sense. I guess what's reality to me is different to other people.
You're a creator for sure.
Yeah.
So you'll create your atmosphere because you know that you're aware of that type of dimension. And creators, they'll be like, okay, well, I want this in this outfit. so I'm going to sew it, or I'm going to create it, or you know what, I want this in this graphic, I want this to feel like this or look like this, I'm going to mend it, put it together. Girl, you have that higher conscious of creation. So that solar plex within you, which would creates and is motherly, it's rebirth of life, also rules the feminine too, is being a creator. So you're tapped in, you're tuned in, definitely. I just think there's some people also believing, like being, some people are patterned to believe a certain way, or programmed to believe a certain way. Like they'll pick up patterns from how their mother was or how their father was, and their father might have been really judgmental towards a certain group of people or religion or race, and so they grew up believing that, and thus they cut off all open mind ties to meeting other people who may have walked that route. So it could be inbred in us or embedded in us with family. Same thing with relationships. When we're going through relationships, we see our mothers and our fathers if we're not fully consciously aware of our actions and our awareness and how we're living. So it's definitely levels, but I do feel that humanity is going to go through a big awakening 2020.
Yes.
And Pluto, Uranus, Venus, Saturn, all of them, Mercury too is about to hit retrograde by the end of the summer. So a lot of people are going to be going through transformations, near-death experiences. I don't feel like a lot of people are going to, but the ones that kind of need to wake up a little bit more are going to get their head a little bit knocked. But I feel like it's going to cause a reset, and it's going to cause a reset between the political system, more of our relationships, how real we are or authentic we are with our relationships, the religion, our money, our system. More things are going to go online than in person. So more things are going to be computer based.
When that's what to me in my head, just because I read, and even before right now, this pandemic, if we were talking 7 months ago, I could have told you, I'm reading about how people think that in a year there's going to be some kind of pandemic you're going through. So I feel like I've been seeing what's going on now unfold. So I feel a lot of the shift that we're feeling is a shift from reality to a virtual reality. So where how maybe a year ago, you know, when we were talking, we were planning to meet up in person to do something. Now we're doing via the computer, as
exactly
are, where people before, they used to meet up with their friends and have actual parties. Now they're FaceTiming to have parties, and we've seen so many TV shows that depict this transition of the world. A movie that I've seen that I wish everybody's seen, it's called Fahrenheit 451. Have you seen it?
No.
It has Michael B. Jordan in it. It's a HBO special or Star special, one of those movies. And it's a scientific movie. It's based on a book about, you know, in the future, how they ban people from reading books and writing on paper, you know, and it shows how over the years history gets erased, how people remember things is changed. So now people think that firefighters was created to burn books because books are lies, and they're so disconnected from what reality used to be. Is that the only Black person movie was Michael B. Jordan, and there was no knowledge of slavery or of anything like that because books were banned, and all this knowledge was in books. And you know, and it showed how every house people had something that was similar to Alexa, but this Alexa was really, you know, listening and watching to making sure they weren't getting too smart. All the books
that's Uncle Sam.
Yeah, and then, you know, all the books that they did have to read was uploaded onto a cloud of a sort. So all the knowledge
which is current. This is all current factors.
Yeah, and it's like exactly happening. And it's
Saturn. That's all Saturn and Pluto, which I feel like is going to create the epidemic problem, which has already created. But they've been in and out of it for a while, since the beginning of this year. and they'll go in and out together until the end of 2020, the beginning of 2021. So we're going to get the reset towards 2021 and be in a whole different realm. So we're going to slowly be online, go more online, computerized jobs, because Saturn's going into Aquarius, which has the, yes, groups, it rules groups and friendships, but it is distance. Aquarius rules detachment. So they're very close with friends at the same time, but they're very detached. And so humanity's going through a detachment too of its society structure. And then you have Pluto coming in, and he's going to come in and knock everything that people are doing wrong. So it's almost a political reset, religion, belief system, everything until 2021, which will do a complete swipe out. So, which makes me interested to see how Trump is, because I've been watching how things played out.
That is my, there's nothing in my body that feels like at the end of this term or even at the end of the next term that Trump is leaving.
Right. And a lot of people are saying that. And his chart is almost showing that he's going to fight it. So he might even come up with some sort of other additional way to distract people. I do believe the epidemic, the virus that's affecting everybody globally was brought. It was an attack. I also feel like it's going to play out from Saturn and Pluto because that's what brought in, but also Chiron's going to be active, and that's going to be bringing in, Uranus is going to be bringing in too, more sicknesses. So it's going to be all through this year. We might even have problems of, the news showing up, okay, well, this and this died. It might slow down, but there's still going to be death counts of numbers of people still dying and passing away all the way until probably October even.
And that's exactly what they're saying in the news, is that it's going to die down, that it's going to come in waves and things like that, that we're going to reach a peak and then it's going to come back again. So we may go a month or two where things are opening up, but there will be no point.
Right.
It's going to come back.
Exactly. Exactly.
I think with that comes with presidency is that I believe if there's a pandemic or there's like an ongoing war or something of the sort, you don't have to leave office, like while we switch power in the middle of something.
Right.
So things like this kind of make me wonder, like, because, I really do feel like the world is a stage, that there's so many people that are in power and placing things to be certain ways. So I don't know how you feel. Like
such a multiverse multiverse in such a dimensional way. So it's everything has a response to it energetically.
And I wonder, like, for me in my head, it's just like, if there was ever a time that you would think that they're trying to create like the new world order, like I feel like now is the time that they can create, the one language with everyone communicating.
Right. Technology. And the chips, all of that.
A new currency with, digidollars or Bitcoin, which they're trying to do.
They tried to do
right away. They wanted to say, oh, if we give you guys this money, we'll be broke, so let's make a new money which is digital and you'll need a chip. Like, no. And
right
office who disagreed with that, because as a civilian, if I didn't open up the right, CNN or Forbes article, I would have never knew that. They weren't talking about that portion of that on the news. They were just saying it was denied. They didn't want to do it. They have to figure it out more, but they never why things are waiting. So it's interesting to see what's going on around this pandemic, because the numbers to me personally still aren't as deadly as other things, as HIV.
Right.
So for the world to be shut down, for businesses to be going into bankruptcy and stuff like that, I really wonder what the bigger picture is.
I agree. And I feel like it's going to play out until next year. So I do feel, I was talking about AIDS, how it's almost the same thing, because this is my belief system, how I kind of did my little study and research. I feel like they they created AIDS. And I feel like they created AIDS to test on certain people. And I believe prior to this outbreak, they had in China, or I believe Japan, either China or Japan, they had a bunch of Muslims, like Muslim camps, set up doing virus or vaccine treatments, giving them pig, making them sick. And this was an ongoing war situation before the outbreak happened in America. And so I feel like this is a repeated epidemic that's going on within the year of 2020. I also feel like 2012 is really the mimic of 2020.
Was it the swine flu?
What? Repeat that, honey?
Was it swine flu in 2012, or was
Yes, it was, and we felt like the whole system was about to crash, and that everything online would crash. People would get viruses on their computers. I believe everybody went crazy in the stores too, 2012. So, but it didn't happen. We bounced straight back from that. We came up with that.
They did a stimulus check type situation too for
Right.
Ebola or something. They gave out a stimulus check.
Mm-hmm. Right. And it's a mimic. It feels like a mimic. So it's almost like now is like it's the big fall. It's the big transformation. It's a big year that we've been preparing for. I feel like all of us already knew about it. But I feel like we just didn't know when it would happen.
And it's people powers like Bill Gates and, Elon Musk.
Oh, yes. All this Pluto retrograde and Saturn retrograde is going to expose those people. And that's why I keep
Ellen being on house arrest, supposedly when Epstein and Harvey when they were just in court for all their crimes, that they both agreed to rat out people, and that's why all these CEOs have been
bouncing off.
Because they're all under investigation. And I've seen things on the internet of people pointing out Oprah and Ellen having on house arrest bracelets under their clothes, but the internet
right.
is a very tricky place and things could be doctored, but I personally would not be surprised if that is 100% fact of what is going on and why things are playing out, how they're playing out. Even when it comes to, this sickness, months ago when Kobe Bryant died, the article would be Kobe Bryant just passed, but on the side, it'll be China's dealing with the coronavirus.
Right. Big pharma. And big pharma's ran, right. Dead on. Sorry, didn't mean to bug you. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, and people were wondering, like, I wonder what this Kobe that Brian is distracting us from. And I feel like it was just the beginning of multiple distractions that they were going to let this fly over people's head, because so many people have already been having their conspiracy theories about the Pizzagate and all this stuff. But there have been so many proven and factual court cases about I can't remember the name, but about the woman who had like the sex ring of models, young kids, and they was on
Epstein's escort.
No, not that one. Last year, it was a woman who went under her. It was like the name of their group had a whole bunch of Roman numerals or something. And I remember seeing on TMZ that she went to jail. The girl is semi-famous. She was some kind of teen star who went on to do that. But it's like,
oh, wow.
It keeps showing.
I think you're talking about something with an N and an X in it. Yeah. But it's new. Okay.
Or something. I can't remember, but
yeah.
It's the same thing with celebrities and pedophilia. So it's just like, so it's real, even to the fact of them admitting to UFOs, because the Navy posted a video like, look at what we're seeing, and then they go and say, oh, we see this so often every year. Like, okay, so you guys are seeing something.
Right. And I feel like all of that has to do with the retrogrades too. Again, I feel like since the exposure has been happening, that's all from Saturn, that's all from Pluto. I feel like they've been at it since the beginning of this year, but since the beginning of this year is when all this stuff started popping up. And so once it goes retrograde, it's almost like everybody's it's going to headlining everywhere. Oprah this, blah, 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 Epstein this, but stuff that we're really trying to dig for. So I feel like Harvey Weinstein, he's done, he's gone. There's another guy, was it Tom maybe, who's that guy that flew out to Australia because he's on hideout? Supposedly him and his wife are sick. But people,
Tom Hanks?
yes. So to me, this is really interesting because the media is really portraying that he's out there, he's been a rapist, blase, he's part of this Pizzagate. To me, it's very interesting. And I kind of, I feel it with a lot of other people. I get that. But Tom Hanks, I feel it was trying to tap out of all this secret society stuff, like almost years ago. He was trying to live off the grid for a while. So I felt like he was running from that sort of society and how it was going. So I almost feel like him running from another place out of America was him running from them trying to set him up. So the energy is like, yeah, you were a part of it previously, but your body, your soul is owned to us. So you're going to come back and this is what you're going to do, or else we're going to ruin your whole media outlook on who you are. He probably won't play any movies within the next couple of years. There's another document called Celebrities on Hulu. I don't think Netflix has it, but this document kind of explains how celebrities are set up a specific way. Like J-Lo, they used to run and get pictures of her if they could have pictures of her marriage, or destruct her and say that she was a woman that shouldn't be married, that she was bad in relationships. And really that wasn't it. It was just the fact that she wasn't being obedient to who was giving more power to, or even movies. There's higher up people that are like, okay, well, I'm going to play with your reputation if you don't do this. So it's very blackmailing type of media in a way. So I feel like Tom Hanks, out of all of them, I do feel they're all guilty. I even feel like Oprah in some ways is guilty too.
So I feel like I don't think Oprah is, she doesn't even, to me personally, she doesn't portray to be a nice person.
Right.
That's not the energy I get from her.
I knew it when she was close with Epstein too, but Weinstein, that she was in on all of that. But even the Clintons were going to Africa and taking organs from these kids, and then they have a whole foundation that people are giving money to that are supposed to go to save Africa, and it's a whole big lie. There was a woman that got arrested who used to go to Africa to go pick out kids from orphanages, take them to America, and they would disappear.
Just
and
like
their thing would be they were adopted.
He was arrested in like the blood diamond stuff and all of that.
Oh yeah, Naomi
diamonds, and I feel like she's a part of it. And isn't Naomi Campbell the one who has the house on the island that's shaped like
like an eye? Yeah. So the Eye of Horus could go either way. There was a negative projection of it and a positive projection, but it was for protection. It's just interesting that I wanted to say that first. But I feel like because of what she's doing, because of what she has done, all of that energy that she's connected to, she's definitely connected to the new world order. She symbolizes it. There's a last interview where she talks about how she feels she can't speak on it and it has to be positive. There's so many. I feel like she's under a contract when it comes to them, but she's one of those. Naomi's definitely one of those and has been for a while. But a lot of people don't read about her. They don't check her out like that, so she's a celebrity. Oh, she's a model, they give her praise for it, but they don't dig into her reputation at all. So yeah, she's another. She was also on the private Epstein's private parties and jets and would have all that with them little girls. Yeah. Oh yeah.
When you say that you feel like them going after Tom Hanks is like them trying to pull him back into something, do you feel like that's what they did with Bill Cosby or even R. Kelly, you know, or do you feel like those are genuine allegations?
I feel like
Or to
R.
a certain
Kelly's
extent,
genuine
they're
to a
genuine.
certain extent. Yeah, I feel like R. Kelly, I do, and I feel like because of the way he was raised, the things that he had went through, the allegations were is that he was also raped by a man when he was younger. So I feel like R. Kelly had a lot of psychological issues that he was not aware of, even though his whole plan may have not been, oh, I want to be this toxic man. He kind of grew into that in a form, and I can see how, you know, society also being in the entertainment industry can be also very swallowing of darkness too. So it's a collective choice. Same, you know, I feel like with DMX too, I feel like they kind of caught him up in some dark energy and he fell into some drugs, but it's such a destructive industry that most people come out very corrupted. And just because of the power plays and the money and how do we do this or, you know, make this or become famous, it's very power hungry type of dynamic that it's in. So interesting.
And so I'm sorry. My mind was blank. I was like listening. I was just like, oh my gosh, that's happening to me a lot lately. I just have so many thoughts. I don't know.
And that's also because of retrogrades. We are feeling a little bit of confusion. I remember like the past 3-4 days, even my sister too, we've been forgetting things. And I've been like, why did I forget that? How can I forget my phone? Or how do I forget my purse right now? So it's a little bit of the energy. We're running through that. We're going to be in 4 or 5 different retrogrades coming in. Another thing I wanted to talk about was that more of that Venus, because a lot of people have been asking me, why are lovers acting this way? Why are exes acting this way? What's the switch up with energy? And a lot of it having to do is Venus going retrograde, which rules love and money and partnerships. And then Juno having to do with marriage, he goes direct in May around the same time that Venus goes retrograde. So our marriages, are going to be worked on. And I think that people are going to finalize their divorces the end of summer. But I feel like people are going to come out either working in a strong dynamic with their partnership once Venus goes direct, or they're going to end up finding someone completely new between the time of Venus going retrograde and going direct. So it's almost like a time frame of reevaluating lovers, our lives, our belief system, what we feel, what we think. Also, Chiron's going to be active too. Uranus is going to be retrograding, Jupiter retrogrades, Saturn, Pluto. So a lot of this is us going back and dealing with karmic issues or past life issues or restructuring, but our whole entire planet and humanity is going through it now. So a lot of people are like, oh, this person walked out of my life, I'm sad. And I'm like, no, that's supposed to happen. That's supposed to happen. And the more we restrict things from happening, the more we're going to go back in that toxic energy, that karmic energy, and spirit is just going to say, okay, you haven't learned, well, let me give it to you one more time. So the energy is kind of like repeating itself with retrogrades, especially from last year. So last year, if there's anything that popped up in the summertime, it might be a repeat. But I feel like we're going to be working more on collective with our values and how we see partnerships and how we see our lives and our goals and our dreams, structures, all of that changes until 2021. So, girl, it is time.
And when you were talking about relationships, I was wanting to ask you about soul ties, and then I brought up earlier, and your young boy is, I don't want to call it a love triangle, like a ring of women in love with him. So,
and it's kind of, it does in a way, it kind of is, because Venus being retrograde in Gemini, that's the only way, unless well, yeah, I'll say it. I'll just label it that. I'll label it that. But we're more karmatically open to having third parties or second parties. And because it's in Gemini, we're more playful. We want to have playful relationships. So anything that is more serious or anything that is more destructive or doesn't feel good, we're going to stray from, or being more in argumentative space. So Spirit is calling with Venus and Gemini is, let's have more fun, let's be more playful together. Or how do I connect to somebody that makes me be more playful? Or how can we work on a relationship to understand each other better, which I feel like is really important. But it's going to be changing the whole dynamics of partnerships for another 2 months, and then probably another third if we haven't made our decisions and our plans yet. But through summertime, it's going to be like a whole reset of lovers, or at least understanding our lovers and understanding ourselves of what we truly want and what we desire. So work, revising, karmic structure, also karmic ties and soul ties are very popular right now too, which is a thing with Gemini. It does rule lovers, and I believe Libra does too. But Gemini, there's something about having the polar opposite, or an opposite of almost one is different than the other, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of karmic soul ties that are coming up from last year or from earlier this last summer that are coming back in. They kind of want to see if they have a chance, or they want to rework on the karmic bond. I'm also telling people, don't get back with our karmic ties. They might come back in just to reassure that you're still there, or reassure is something, maybe a karmic closure, something like that. If they do come back in, they're being called to you, they are thinking about you. But I feel if you do get involved with a karmic situation over Venus in retrograde, it's going to fall apart by the time it goes direct, because it's an illusion. So nothing real kind of you could build on, unless you've already been building prior to Venus in retrograde. So relationships that have been trying to fight through this energy, and that have been together prior, they're going to make it. Yeah, they might have some bumps and tribulations. Some of them might even be breaking up, but because of the third parties as well. But there's a chance to evolve, and a chance to open up further. But once it goes direct, all that illusion, all that, the karmic ties, or the third parties, they go. So it's kind of like I tell people, let them, if they want to, let them go ahead. Let them take off their mask, let them show you who they are. But by that choice and that chance, they're going to see by karmic choice that this is what they've done to themselves. And so that's why I keep telling people, don't hook up with your like, if you want to, go ahead. But I'm telling you, the ones that want to leave, go ahead. So it's very interesting. I'm seeing a lot of people that have been in long-term relationships for 3-4 years having issues. Even the other day I was talking to a neighbor, and she was like, yeah, my husband hasn't came home in 6 days. And I'm like, huh?
Oh, okay.
like okay,
I wouldn't even call him husband.
right, and she was just like, I don't want to nag at him or anything. I said, I can understand that, but at this point, you know what it is, so there's a lot of,
and you're married. Even like if he was my boyfriend, like I can't understand that, especially if you live together, but okay. But 6 days for my husband, okay.
Right. Husband, it completely different. Boyfriend, okay, I'll cut you off. I'll cut you back off too. But that husband energy, oh yeah. So that's coming up, and it has been coming up since February. So there was some fights in February. Pluto open up, Saturn open up November. So there has been a little back and forth between the lovers for a couple of months. But with Venus going retrograde this month, it's just going to bring it right up.
I feel like in a lot of these situations, for people who are a little bit more conscious, they kind of rely on the term twin flame when it comes to situations that they know are toxic, are no good for anyone. They just I feel like twin flame is so
Mm.
romanticized when it's
Mm-hmm.
like there is a good
I'm so glad you
part of
picked
it,
that
but
up,
there's
girl.
also like I don't immediately think twin flame means soulmate. I feel like those are two different terms. I feel
Two different terms,
like
right?
they're both very strong relationships, and maybe your twin flame is your soulmate, but if there's so much tension and
Right,
drama around it,
right.
maybe it's not. Like you don't have to
It's not.
where it
It's
doesn't go.
not. Right. And it's interesting you said that because I stopped using the term twin flames for almost 2 years now. About a year and a half. I still use twin in some form, but I don't like using the word twin flames. It's interesting because I see the same thing and it goes on immediately where women are like, oh my gosh, he's running. Oh, my twin flame is running from me. And I'm like, girl, he's running because he doesn't want to be in a relationship. He's running because he's your twin flame. He's running because he don't want to be in a relationship. So it's almost like another brainwash propaganda program that has other people who are in the spiritual field to believe, okay, well, this soulmate is so much more special than the other soulmates. So even though he does wrong, I'm going to appreciate him and blah, 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 and be all nice and good because blah, blah, blah. But reality hits and then it's still energetically draining. So it's almost like a karmic thing. So I feel like a lot of people who are obsessive over the word twin flame normally are obsessive over a karmic flame. Um, and I know a lot of people are going to be mad I'm saying that, but I don't like using the term twin flame no more because a lot of people have been, it's ruined their lives. I know people who have had children with people who believe that they were twin flames and they're gone. So it's not something that I teach, not something that I like to even bring in much. Or when people ask me about twin flames, I say, there's other readers who talk about twin flames, but I'll just mention soulmates and soul ties, and that's what I talk about.
And
But
I feel like what a twin flame is, like from how I perceive it, is that toxic relationship, that person you love, that person you want to be with, just no matter what, it's not going to work. That's my perception or my experience with it has been. And I know so many other people with that story who think that if they just work it out one day, and I mean in some people's cases one day it does just all come together and he is the man that you've been waiting
right.
for, but it's like it's not worth waiting. And I feel like even with this area of astrology or reading people's charts or tarot cards or things like that, that is such a sensitive space, and with the wrong people they may think they have the wrong power or now they have all the answers, like of course you can find a lot of things out and you do know a lot, but it's also like you don't know everything,
It's
you're still gonna
exactly.
have to experience life and still
They're
figure
still compatible. I've had lovers that were I've had lovers that matched my fate in my natal astrology chart, but he was probably a pure karmic reflection. And so I tell you, most people are like, oh my gosh, he's fated and he's this and he's that, and this is gonna be like the one because it shows up in my natal chart. And I'll be telling people like, no, 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 no. So it's interesting though, because I see positive and negative in all charts. Some charts might be more compatible than the others, but that's another one is a lot of people will ask, is he the one? And I'm like, you guys have compatibility, but I'm not going to tell you he's the one and then have you later on say, you know what, I changed my mind because I have Mercury and Aquarius, like
there's some
so
like he could be the one, but then also life plays into it too, so I can't tell you, like he could be the one, I just don't know if he actually
right. And it's all conscious choice. What I see and what I feel intuitively and the visions that I get, still people have the conscious collection in their mind to make a decision, and even the play out might be 70%, 80% chance. Yeah, that might be the overall story play. There's still people that say, you know what, maybe I'm going to choose a different decision or go a different way. So, but likely the play out, shows, but there's still people that have, their karmic way of being, you know, of just who they are. So it's choice, it's decision making, it's the law of choice, definitely. But
so we are coming up on an hour here, so I'm gonna have to get going.